सर प्लेटफॉर्म चेंज किया है, चेक कर रहा हूँ मैं।
Hello, hello. Check, 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 check. Sir,
Hello, 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 hello. Okay.
I know lunch always makes us very sleepy, but I'm sure the poetry will wake you all up. Please call your friends who are, still eating lunch or whatever. Dr. Vanita, please, you're the chair for the session. From India, Dr. Chadar Bambu from Bhutan. Are you here, Chadar? Kiriti Sengupta, come please. Govinda Giri Prerana from Nepal. Govinda, sir. Rajkumar Shrestha from Nepal. Rajkumar Shrestha, are you here? Yusuf Mohammed from Bangladesh. Yusuf Mohammed from Bangladesh, are you here? Sejuti Barwa from Bangladesh.
Recording in progress.
Welcome. Rajkumar Shrestha. Is he here or has he not come? Does anybody know? No? Yusuf Mohammed. Is he here or he hasn't come? Do you know Sejuti? Whether he's come? Where is he? No, I know Sejuti is here. I'm asking about Yusuf. Yeah, call, please. And Rajkumar Shrestha is not here. Has he come this morning? He hasn't come. Then we can start our session. Yeah. Thank you, Vanita. Each poet will be given 8 minutes each, and I would request you to just talk about, just start reciting and not talk too much before that, because we are running half an hour behind and we don't want to cut your time for your poems. Also, the poems can only be recited in English. Thank you. You want me to move this side or that?
Hello, Kavita. I think we should start. We should not wait. And so I invite Trina Chakrabarti from India to recite her poems by 7 minutes. Okay?
Thank you for having me here. So give my 1 minute more. Thank you. Thank you. So, talking from the Two Senseless Wars. So my first poem goes like aftermath, but after a long time when a battleground or a city is converted into a tourist spot. Tourist spot. An empty head is lying on the city walk with no memory inside. He was a soldier. One can still see the ceasefire marks on his face. Tourists have gone. They want to internalize the fall of an empire. Cameras capturing group photos and selfies. Lovers pose for moments to be recorded. Kids run around. A magician chooses it as a suitable backdrop for his show. Tourists cheer. They love war stories, as they love adding a bit of salt in their fresh fruit juices. On the city walk lies the hollow head without memories. You can make out he was a brave man. Remnants of the glorious tradition can still be seen smeared on the face. The next poem is The Pattern. I never wished to know the death. Rather, I went there to know the life. I went to those long roads full of information. You hardly make any idea about the place. Usually, they are like some gloomy evenings. I went there to know the life, bypassing any discussion even about the shadow of death. How far I can go to know the life? You must already guessed that. What to say? It was not for the first time that an old pattern follows me everywhere. It was not a wise idea to let it continue. But the voice sounded like non-stop raining. Oh, that mellow voice told me at the very beginning about death. Then slowly unfolded the facts of life. But those become useless by that time. Like a long-awaited cup of tea, cold like anything. I went there to know the pattern. How far can I go to know it? You must already guess that. Morbid people. You did not like morbid people. Wherever you saw someone gloomy, you switched on the music loudly. Seated like a pale sun rays of dusk, I found that the life has been stopped beneath a mountain. Although it was movie-like up to a certain point, why by the mountain and not by a river? I was not sure, and thinking. Suddenly, the afternoon sun rays fell on the mirror. Lightning was reflected from one mirror to the other. All the laughters shattered in a glorious dusk. The sound of continuous rain was played from the record player. You did not like morbid people at all. My weekend afternoons spent uselessly on your balcony. Very short two poems.
Silence, please.
Okay. Dilemma. 0 and 1. I have never disclosed my identity, never supported any one of them easily. 0 and 1. All the fallacies lie in between them. Even if dragged towards apocalypse, I could not choose either of them. 0 and 1 have taught me, in fact, restlessness can also be a kind of state. And the last poem, all about nirvana. I do not know anyone named Tirthankar. After sending a friend request, he went out, maybe towards Africa or Shimurdali. The city has a bad reputation as it allows rain, but no rainy season. Roads already changed their cover pictures. Now it is very difficult to locate the actual address. Now, thinking about Tirthankar, I can just recall the friend request. About nirvana, only his old smile, like an embarrassed letter caught in hand, smoking a lonesome, meaningless cigar. Thank you.
Thank you, Trina Chakrabarti. Now I request Dr. Chador Wangmo from Bhutan to recite her poems.
Good afternoon. I know Ma Ajit Kaurji is not here, but my mom has always told me that one should never forget to pay one's gratitude to the person who has given you happiness. Ma Ajit Kaurji, I'm looking at the chair that you normally sit on, and I fold my hands and I pay my deepest gratitude for making me worthy enough to be presented with the award that I was presented yesterday. I know had I been given the chance to talk yesterday, I would have had tears in my eyes. My tears would have spoken what I truly feel. And I know as I am using these words, I'm using the minutes that I have been given to recite my poetry, but more important than my poetry is the gratitude that I must pay to Ajit Kaur Ma. So, since the first speaker for today, and even just before the session, before lunch, kept reminding us the same thing that was running through my mind as we were listening to various poets and scholars presenting their papers on these senseless wars. So as I was listening, I could literally see the images of the brutality of the wars that we have been seeing recently. But at the same time, I kept on asking myself, these people are talking about these senseless wars, but what about the endless wars we battle every day with ourselves? So that's when I thought that maybe my poetry should be based on this theme. So please listen to the first poem that I would want to recite now. When we are little, we hear grown-ups tell us, "You will know when you grow up." Throughout our childhood, we wait to grow up and know life. I'm a grown-up now. Just grown-up, I repeat, not older. That's complex, isn't it? But the more I grow older, more complex life's queries gets. I don't understand why things are the way they are. I don't understand why we do certain things we'll end up doing. I don't know whose puppet I have become. I don't know why I must travel on certain path. I don't know. I just don't know. How much more do I need to grow up to understand things? How much more till I understand life? So I do a lot of this asking myself, what is my purpose? Why I am the way I am? So that takes me to the next poem that I'm going to recite, which will be on the same mood of the one that I read just now. I went a-picking one gloomy afternoon. I know happiness grew abundantly in forests untouched by lies and deception of the mundane humanly life. So I picked my backpack, slung it on my back, already half bent, carrying the agonies of life, and age riding heavy on it. In the forest, I listened to strange silence, punctuated by bird coils. I know whatever or whoever filled this forest with its silence had the secret hidden in its heart. One, and then two. My back bent, sent my tired limbs scrambling on the wet floor of the forest. In a hazy daze, I picked a fallen pine cone. Then I picked two. Filled my backpack like a pregnant lady, and I returned home. with the silence of the forest echoing in my soul. So as I was choosing these two poems, I just realized that maybe I might put some of you into that very grim kind of a mood. So I just have 4 lines here which I will quickly recite to get you back to that happy mood. So this is something romantic to put a smile on your lips. Enveloped in the wind, I will touch you and go past. If you feel like, stop me, and I will rest on your lips. Thank you. That resting on your lips should be the smile on your faces. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chador Rammo. Very, very thank you. Now I invite Kriti Sen Gupta from India. Is she there?
Yeah. First of all, Dr. Chador Rammo, thank you so much for bringing a smile on our faces. It's something that we all long for, because in a session where we read poetry, not everyone smiles frequently, but you brought smile on our faces. Kudos to you. Thank you so much, and my heartfelt gratitude to the respected Ajit Kaur Madam for inviting me for reading my poems at the Foswal Literature Festival. So before wasting any more time, my first poem brings the overall smell, the aroma of Calcutta. Calcutta, a city I belong to, although I live in Delhi nowadays for the past 3.5 years. The poem is titled, From Being Late in Calcutta. So I repeat, From Being Late in Calcutta. As soon as you mark me late, I'll talk about events that guide me to the records you maintain. I would say, crowded buses invite passengers from unscheduled halts. I would emphasize the number of speed breakers on road and their poor performance in preventing accidents. I would tell you trains run late, signals are laggy between stations. I won't forget to mention how a sudden protest makes the train stand still for hours. I would discuss about the day I reported late owing to instantaneous suspension of underground train services as a man killed himself on the railway lane. I would ask you to remember why I came late the other day. If you can recall, I had indigestion despite eating at home. I blamed farmers for sprinkling pesticides on crops. I pointed at my salary that failed to buy organic veggies. And then I would invariably argue about maintenance and population. I would appreciate China, one-child policy, and their claim on how the government prevented 400 million births, and how India thrives on the revenues earned from selling nicotine and condoms. I'll explore other issues the next time I reach late. The next poem is titled The Untold Saga. So it's all about Nirbhaya that took place back in 2012. It took 2 hands to kill Mahishasura. It took 2 hands to kill Mahishasura. Trishul was used to destroy the demon. Autumn accompanies your 10-arm avatar. Like many women, you followed the husband. You emerged from the gods. You had several weapons. The fiend was considered inconvincible. You won the battle, but did not claim the bounty. That you are worshipped in earth gave no relief to gasping Nirbhaya. She was scourged by scoundrels who dug into her body parts. She followed death, thus could not create an epic. The next poem is from my latest book. It's about a woman, it's about a lady who conquered God. So it's based on the Manasa Mangal Kavya, and the poem is titled When a Woman Conquered God. Hail Padmavati. Hail Padmavati, pardon my ignorance. Brides in rural layouts are reminded of Behula, her commitment and how hardship failed to mute her ardor. Onerous it was to fetch your favor. Behula refies devotion. Legend stresses a laundress ushered Behula to heaven to revive her late spouse. Derided for your limited vision, you evoked fear of well-being. You were granted the Godhead as Chand conceded to your ruse. Did Behula claim indelible stature? Did Behula claim indelible stature? Did she ask homage? While believers observe Behula as loyal soulmate, you remained a deity. You remained a deity to be worshipped with the left hand. One more, we all know a bit about her. It's one of the Apsaras from the legends. We know of 3 Apsaras, Urvashi, Menka and Rambha. So this poem is based on Urvashi, her role in legends. So the poem is titled Urvashi Behind Her Siren Avatar. Part 1. The Mahabharata does not ratify your fondness for Arjuna. The Mahabharata does not ratify your fondness for Arjuna. It must be severe when he declined your plea. Worthy was your forethought as you implicated him. In his last year of living incognito, Arjuna turned into Brihannala. Part 2. Your son, Rishyasringa, helped Dasharath become the father of Rama. Your son, Rishyasringa, helped Dasharath become the father of Rama. Does the Ramayana endorse your direction to the Treta Yuga? That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Preeti Sen Gupta, with the wonderful poems. And now I invite Govinda Giri Prerna from Nepal. Please recite her poems.
Namaste and good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank Foswal for inviting me here as a poet in this festival, and I have heartfelt thanks for the Foswal Award that I received yesterday. I will recite today 2 poems. First poem is about war. We talked about war a lot in 2 days. The title of the poem is After the War. The city was mashed, the road was broken, people were dead. The city was not city, the road was not road, people were not people. There were debris, there were pits, there were dead bodies. Dead bodies were scattered, bodies were not bodies were pieces of bones in places. There was no smile. There was no smile, no tears, no cry, no face of the people. A dog was seen there. A dog was seen there holding a piece of human, his eyes full of tears for his loving owner. Thank you. Second poem is Guest. Guest. You left nothing but memory. You left nothing but memory. Empty teacup and plates were washed. Used napkins thrown in trash. Bed sheet changed. Floor was mopped. New air freshener was sprayed in the room. You said in cold voice goodbye and you were gone. You said in cold voice goodbye and you were gone. You are already gone, but I feel badly. You are here somewhere, smiling and joking. Oh guest, you left nothing but yourself in my heart. Thank you.
You were so quick, Govindagiri Prenaji. You can recite one more poem from here only, if it's okay. Thank you. Now I request Yusuf Muhammad from Bangladesh. Yusuf Muhammad ji.
Good evening to honorable audience and guests. I am Yusuf Muhammad from beautiful and historical port city of Chattogram, Bangladesh. I would like to thank to eminent writer Ajit Kaur and her team for inviting me such a grand occasion. I will present here my Doha. There is no title. We always tired of different opinions and paths. So poet says, it is 3:52. I am tired to listening to the dawdle of so many ways and means. The city of Jayashree has been scorched to ruins. Rahim and Ram, Buddha, Jesus, the ancient Zarathustra, spread the poison of enmity in 1,000 ways and paths. I am hanging in limbo, alone in the unknown emptiness. Virgin windows melt in my loving embrace. The blind doors of the prayer hall call my name, but the harsh sailors puts away the lock in humanity's name. Next one, 378. Why have you appeared in the window, O Lord? Up close I find you, and lo, you are gone. Sending forth the wind alert, you show up in my door, and tell me your silent voice. For all your love of flowers, Whose wreath have you given to whom? I just watch on and play with sand in the far away fields and swing the palm leaves. The rusted door knob cackles and rocks. The fly and the fish play in the milkman's yard. I don't know why I offer my hand, O Lord, who has spoiled your game. In the disenchanted garden, we don't belong to each other. The fallen leaves torn into dust or ashes. Bear in mind, oh dear, we don't belong to each other. We don't belong. You put the cream up on the scaffold, so I head out to the other block, so that as much as I look for, I can never find myself. Next one. There is no less conflict about whether God exists or not. So the poet says, 4:14. You are and you are not, for you live in my rituals, the way a fish lives in a cage. You are and you are not, I can only feel your touch. And I play snakes and ladders and the diamond card. Look around and see your book in false translations, while the clerics, spirits, and godmen feast on the sharpening chasms. You are and you are not. I can only feel your touch. I play kabaddi and dariyabanda just to tease you. All your savings have been graved in avarice and ripped apart. The idiot whisper to each other about the best routes to heaven, oblivious of the real thing. Oh, but I need the heavenly nip, not you. You play and so they do. I pick up the piece, salvaging you. Did you know that summer winds have been up in flames? Others stand to forget the broken bridge they have just crossed. They look for the Shanai in the ancient apple. I have not seen them alone. I have not seen them alone. Kanai the lover too was done. Now I will read Bengali poetry because Bengali is the world sweetest language.
Excuse me, some other time. Bengali poetry, because it's only a session for English poetry.
Only two
lines.
Two lines only.
Yeah. Okay.
God Himself seeks Him within me and worships me because she does not exist and survive without me. In Bangla, তোমাকে বন্দনা করি, তুমি আমার শক্তি, তুমি কে জানি না, কেন আমাকে করো ভক্তি। Thank you all.
Thank you, Govind Giri Prerna ji. Thank you so much. Rajkumar Shrestha from Nepal. Yusuf Mohammed? Yeah, go. She's. Now I request Sanjuti Barwa from Bangladesh.
Good afternoon to all. I am Sanjuti Barwa from Bangladesh. Thank you, Bonita ji. I am grateful to my dear mom, Ajit Kaur ji, for inviting me to this prestigious literature festival. My first poetry's title is October Verse, translated by Anindita Bose. We were walking through the loneliness of October. The darkness had entered the concert. Someone instructed to sit on the ground and stretch our bodies. Someone beckoned us to sink under the purple light. We were walking together as much as we could, amazed. Our hidden desires, while our fingers were touching our own fear. If the sun stops the song of twilight, we have to return like the exiled birds returning home. We break the barriers and keep the unhappiness hidden deep within us, while searching for the springtime of hash on the soft valley of our lives. Beyond our gaze comes the joy of music, the images of Jerusalem's wounds gathered in our thoughts. There was a sudden flash of sparks in your innocent eyes. Who knew a group of freedom fighters secretly would cross the ocean and part our two worlds in a confession of love, and even my Palestine identity will be covered by the olive leaf. Thank you. My second poetry's title is At the Spice Shop, translated by Kamrul Hassan. I hear cinnamon is selling like hotcake at the spice shop. I too feel a title intrigued and ask about the price. The shopkeeper sprinkled aside the turmeric over the dry chilies as he leavened the ginger. This cinnamon is as aromatic as it can get if they are used to cook meat or something else. The neighbors will come running. The cinnamon will elevate the prestige of the home and the owner too. Tell me if you need them. I turn my attention to Saffron now and ask him about the price. The shopkeeper removes the covers of the baskets as if he were opening doors and windows. He takes a pinch of the saffron now. Come have a look. It's the priciest. It is the priciest spice on earth. Smells like a lotus and as red as it can get. The grains of spice in his hand soon become a flower, and the flower turns into a human shape. He smiles at my curiosity. I am not from Kashmir or Khorasan or the Asia Minor region. I have grown up here. The heart of this healthy saffron beats for Bangladesh. If you take me home, my arms will put you to a sound sleep. He had me at sound sleep and I stayed my hand. But all the baskets, even the forsaken ones, millions of aromatic spices and the shopkeeper too, start marching in a line like the ants on my hands and towards my bosom. I feel I am drowning, intoxicated and weak in my knees. The black mustard leaves me numb. I try drawing my hands close, but a muscular hand puts something on my palm. Here, take all this I am giving you, all the spices I have, but go home quick before they wake up in the hustling wind, and let me close my shop. I open my eyes, but looking at my hand, I see nothing. Neither the spices, nor the shopkeeper, not even the spice shop, as if it has just vanished in thin air, like an illusion. And I feel I am sinking at oblivion, weak on my knees and a little high. Thank you.
Thank you for this session. Our very sensitive poets, Trina, Dr. Chadul Mangmo, Kriti ji, Govinda Giri, Yusuf Muhammad ji, Sanjuti Barwa, and I would say a few words about you, about your poetry, because I was feeling that this Asian Foswal poetry in English, because all of you are some are from Bangladesh, from Bhutan, from Nepal, and from India. We have our own languages, but in diversity, in cultures, in images, metaphors, this Foswal literature has given us a broader genre, although these poems which we enjoyed today are translated form, from different languages. But we thoroughly enjoyed your silences, your gaps, intervals, styles, and we can assume how in your country, in your language, how prolific you are. Salute to all the poets. I thoroughly enjoyed. And for languages, as it was said, read in English, I will read a poem, Desire of Language. The fragrance of motherhood created the urge for language. A prayer to the Gurudev. The yearning for language has brought me to thy feet. Said Gurudev, O disciple, mother tongue is not enough. Said disciple, mother tongue is not enough to live. Imperative it is to learn the language of woods. Imperative it is to learn the language of fauna, the language of arrows, the language of sparrows. It was the dearth of this language that brought closer sparrow and crow. The sparrow trusting it, and the crow eating away all the medley of rice dal. So, my disciple,
The fragrance of motherhood may created the language, the urge for language, but to live imperative, language is not enough. It is, mother tongue is not enough to live. Thank you very much. And last point, I will not take more than 8 minutes, and one poem is about I'm not Shakuntala. You know, Giriji has, Kriti has recited many poems from mythology, and you know the myth of Shakuntala. If the base of the faith and marriage are these rings only, then, oh Dushyant, I'm not Shakuntala, whom you can forget. And to remind you about myself, I have to take the help of rings. One who can forget one's soul, one's own life breaths, and has to be reminded by things of what an insult it is. If you have to recognize me because I wear your ring, it's better you remain forgetful of me. I will give birth to Bharat, and to give birth to Bharat, neither I am disappointed nor do I have to go sage Marich or Pita Kanva. I pity even the sage Durvasha. Would that he had enjoyed life even in the memories. But for him, love and memories do not go together. He was so enamored of his aunts, boon or curse and greed thereof are good enough for him. But oh Durvasha, I am not like you who would grant a boon or give a curse. No, I am not like you. And oh my Pita Kanva, I would not step into the doorstep I have left, nor would I go to Marich. Yes, oh Dushyant, don't entertain this hope at all that making the ring a testimony, I would beg you in the name of my fragrance or my helplessness. I am not Shakuntala to beg in helplessness, but I would give birth to Bharat, for whom, instead of taking the ring out of the belly of the fish, I would give him the abode of fish for his father, the ocean. I would give him the abode of fish for his father, the ocean, for his mother, the earth. Thank you very much. Thank you, friends. Now, we are running another session right now. Another session is about, thank you delegates, thank you poets for this beautiful session. And now we have another, thank you. You know, since yesterday we are discussing about anguish over the two senseless wars. Again, here is another session. begin the session about anguish over the two senseless wars. Please be silent. Yours? So we can take 2 minutes break. Now this session, we have 4 speakers. Miss Kanchan Priyathanka from Sri Lanka will chair the session. Miss Kanchan Priyathanka, please come on the dais to chair the session. And our speakers are Dr. Saida Saidin Hamid from India and Dr. Ik Prasad Dwadi from Nepal and Dr. Ayushi Katna from JNU. Have I spelled you correctly? Dr. Ayushi? Ik Prasad. And Dr. Ayushi. Okay. Welcome all the speakers for this session. As we are discussing since yesterday about anguish on the two senseless wars, and history is the witness throughout the ages of countless wars. Every war left behind the marks of destruction, sorrow, and we lose all our beloved son, husband, relatives. These senseless wars, act of violence and wars, killings, leave behind the mourning, anguish, and condolences. So there are so many, critical things we can, our chairperson will speak about. And let me introduce Madam Kanchan Priyathanka is a profound writer, well-known publisher and chief coordinator in Sri Lanka Foundation of SAARC Writers and Literature. I will request Chair Madam to conduct this session and there are 2 speakers. First of all, we will invite Ik Prasad Dwadi ji for his paper on
comparative analysis of the 2 wars.
I have brought my lab. I have brought my lab.
Ik Prasad ji is an assistant professor of English literature in Kathmandu University, the author of 3 books and the editor of 3 journals. So I invite him to present his paper.
Yeah. Is in on my laptop is there.
Thank you very much, Varitaman. I think that is old bio. Now I'm an associate professor since last 2 years. Warmest greetings to all of you, respected Madam, the chairperson, the Foswal team, and special delegates from different parts of South Asia. It's a great pleasure to speak in this forum. Only last March, I attended similar conference here, and I'm here after a short while this year. The theme is anguish over the two senseless wars, and I was just wondering what to say when we hear from Sanjay of Mahabharata already. When you heard from Gandhari, when you have already heard from Kunti, Sri Krishna and all, Vidur and all. But while coming to the dais and knew the cheer, I just, wanted to connect the epic war between Rama and Ramayana. Actually, and also Sita. Sita was kidnapped by Ravan, and Ram had to rescue her. Interestingly, our chairperson represents Sri Lanka, right? The country of Ravan. And I represent Nepal, country of Sita. So, Ramayana is the example of a great war, right? So, I just wanted to create the context. Well, don't worry, I'll enter my topic. However, I won't bore you by overlapping the ideas already expressed by esteemed delegates, from the ambassador to the past ambassadors. We heard great ideas from them this morning. Also, on October 2023, this year, I was hosting a feast in my house during Dasara. My near ones were there, and all of a sudden, I had an eye on the TV screen. Al Jazeera was casting live about the Hamas attack on Israel. Though I'm a neutral person, but seeing the atrocities shown to the Palestinians by the Israelis in recent years, I was supporter of Palestinians, okay? Hamas is part of that. So I thought, well, Nepal is look, gentlemen, our army, don't have to worry. Like the Indian army do, the American army do, and the Israeli army do, because they are surrounded by enemies. Anytime they have to be ready to fight, or either to kill or to get killed. But Nepal is lucky. I was, showing pride to them, to my relatives. However, by the evening, the same channel cast about the death of 10 Nepalese and many students in hostage. Okay? So, they were not enemies of Palestine, nor of Israel. They were the Nepali students working in Israel. They had gone there in on and learn scheme recently, but they were innocent people. But they were engaged in the war accidentally. And still Bipin Joshi, who is one of the captives, hasn't been released. Actually, because of that, I think the Dasai of Nepalese was not that jubilant this year. We're hoping to get Bipin Joshi back, at least during Tihar, for Bhai Dooj or Bhai Tika, as his sister was waiting with a garland. Hope her wish will be fulfilled in the upcoming Tihar. But then I started to analyze, is Nepal safe? Is Nepali safe? If we talk about the tolls of the death, recent death on Hamas and Israel was 10, and when I checked out in another war, in Ukraine and Russia war, the death toll has reached 3 because many Nepalese have joined Russian army now. Similarly, if we remember Kargil war, 9 Nepalese died. Indian soldiers with Nepali origin died according to the Himalayan Times. And if we talk about Second World War, the toll went very high. It was 1,46,000 according to my resource. Actually, then ruling class was loyal to British, so they had to help the rulers, then British Crown. And during the First World War, the death toll was 6,300. So these are the recent tolls. There might be more in other wars. And for your information, Nepal is one of the top contributors for peace building in the world. That is invited by the United Nations. So Nepalese armies are serving in different parts of the world, be it Syria, Lebanon, or Lebanon, or many more. So this is the context. Now, I want to go through all of the concepts or ideas I have written in the paper. So I'll just focus on the way forwards, because we have already heard many problems. But what are the solutions? What are the remedies? I'll just highlight a few of them. The significance of diplomatic efforts, negotiations, and peaceful conflict resolution mechanisms can't be overstated in preventing and resolving conflicts. Resolving conflicts. Dialogue and negotiation remain crucial tools in resolving entrenched disputes. Global cooperation and effective peacekeeping initiatives are essential in mediating conflicts and ensuring sustainable peace. International solidarity and collaborations are pivotal in maintaining stability and preventing further escalations of hostilities. Raising awareness among the human cost of conflicts and fostering education about empathy and peaceful coexistence are crucial in building a culture of peace, educating future generation about the consequences of the conflict and the importance of tolerance and understanding can contribute to preventing future conflicts. So my conclusions, the Russia-Ukraine and Palestine-Israel conflicts typify the devastating toll of protracted disputes, leaving indelible marks of anguish on individuals and societies. The shared experiences of trauma and displacement and loss underscore the urgent need for empathy, intervention, and resolution in conflict zones worldwide. Understanding the human cost of conflicts is imperative in galvanizing global action toward peace building, fostering reconciliation, and preventing future tragedies. And finally, I would like to end my speech with a quotation by Annan. So, war begins when language fails. Thank you very much.
Now between Nepal and Sri Lanka, there is a mediator. I invite Dr. Ayushi Khanna.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ayushi Ketkar, and I teach at the Special Center for National Security Studies. So I might be a slight misfit because this is hardcore security issues that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. But to make it sound more, something that you all can relate to, the paper that I'm presenting here is Women in Conflict, Uncivil Wars in a Civilized World. So that's the title of my paper, and I'm more than glad to share that with all of you. But because of paucity of time, I just take 3 or 4 critical points of this paper, which I wish to share with you. I'm keeping a timer just in case. You know, we professors are used to just going upward, so thank you. Yes, the 2 important wars that we are discussing here, and I guess that's the theme of this, this festival. I'm dealing with one of it. I take one as the focal point of the background, and that's the Israel-Hamas conflict. And the one common thing that I wish to begin with, at the backdrop I wish to mention, is that this is a conflict that has not happened overnight. In fact, this is a conflict that is long due. It predates to even 1948, even before the formation of Israel. But even if we take it in the modern sense, this is a conflict that has begun from 1948, if you want to take it in pure, academic sense of the word. But what is it that made things different now? Why is it an all-out war? What is it that changed, and when is it that this change came about? So you see, after October 7, 2023, the entire Israel-Hamas conflict has taken a new turn and has become an all-out war. And the reason for that is not like a lot of security analysts and all would like to give emphasis to aspects of power, territoriality, sovereignty, all these issues, the hardcore, security issues. But if you look at it, at the heart of it is a very basic and fundamental thing. And that is that this October 7th saw the Lakshman Rekha being breached. And that Lakshman Rekha was that sacrosanct categories, or categories, very important categories of non-combatants were attacked. So you had women, children, senior citizens becoming victims, and brutally, in a barbaric manner. So coming this far down civilization, we wouldn't want to see that kind of barbarity. In fact, if you see, for political science, I don't know how many of you are from pol science background, but the very formation of state was for aspects of survival and security. So that entire concept gets lost if you're again going back to that, Stone Age where might is right. So that is the first point that I like to put forward, because we often think that rules are, can be violated. No, but rules, especially in times of crisis and combat, are extremely critical, because it's these rules and norms that form the basis of any kind of peace building or peacemaking. So that brings us to the concept of just war or dharma yudh. And here a very important principle is something that has to be kept in mind, and that is the principle of proportionality. Proportionality in issues of cause, when you're deliberating on means, as well as when you're deciding on ends. This becomes very important. That's the first point I like to put forth, and that's mentioned in my paper. The second aspect that I'd like to mention here is that women are mostly seen as victims or fodder in crisis, in war zones. While that is largely true, there's no doubt about it, but there's one aspect that we kind of, most of us overlook, and especially policy makers, they don't appreciate and acknowledge one aspect, and that is women as negotiators, women as peacemakers, and as role models. Here I'd like to quickly bring in 2-3 examples. One is, I don't know, if you've heard the name Hansa Mehta. Hansa Mehta is a Gujarati lady, in fact from MS University, the Vice Chancellor of it, a very learned woman who is actually responsible for bringing in human rights in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Because prior to that, most of the time it was rights of man. She was the one to mention, and then Eleanor Roosevelt, the First Lady of US, mentioned why rights of man? Why not woman? Because woman includes man. So that's when you had an Indian lady, a Gujarati woman, Hansa Mehta, who said it should be human rights, rights of human beings. That is the more neutral or secular or acceptable ground. Why make it a gender issue? Because peace is something which cannot be divided in terms of gender categories. So she was the one to bring it, to suggest human rights, which went on to be seconded by Eleanor Roosevelt, and that's how we have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So it's very important. See how terminology differs when it's women who are on the negotiating table. So this is a point that I like to put forth here, because we often negate the role of women as negotiators and peace builders. I'd like to cite a very interesting study made by the United Nations. It's Women at the Negotiating Table. It says there's a 20% increase in the longevity of any peace negotiation if the conflict is 2 years and above, when you have women at the negotiating table or in the decision-making position. And there's an increase by 35%, okay? The increase in longevity of a peace deal increases by 35% in conflicts which are 15 years and above, when you have women negotiators on board. Very clearly mentioning that if you want longer peace, then you have to have women at the negotiating table. Despite this, the reality is less than 4% signatories in peace deals are women, and less than 10% peace negotiators are women. It's sad, because the most important thing that women bring is the power of persuasion. When it's men, men peacemakers, it's either incentive or it is coercion. Okay, it's almost like corruption or coercion kind of thing. Either they give, it's a carrot and stick policy. So they give you either inducement, okay, this is the benefit you get, or else you will be punished like this. Okay, there's a reprimand or punitive thing to it. But it's women who bring in the power of persuasion, and that's critical when it comes to it. The third point that I'd like to mention here is gender equality, the correlation between gender equality and use of force. Again, there's a very interesting study by a political scientist, Mary Caprioli, and this is a pretty long, comprehensive study, a longitudinal study, where she clearly sees, and in various areas, right from Afghanistan to the Gulf region to Africa, wherever there's inequality, it's a direct correlation between gender inequality and the use of force. That is where there is a lopsided gender equation, that is more of men and less of women, the tendency to use force or violence is more. In fact, it's very interesting that even the former US President Jimmy Carter says, the more gender equity in a country, the less likely it is to go to war. And there are various examples to back this up, and it's mentioned in my paper. And last but not the least, women, or especially mothers, are the biggest hope in war zones. They are not only the biggest, at the receiving end, but also the biggest hope, because they have the, the resilience to be protectors, to be peace promoters, to even forgive. Many a times it's even forgiveness from where the peace begins. Okay, so just to, I'm taking the liberty of reciting one of the poems, because this is the only platform I realized where a security analyst can also say I love poetry, and sometimes I do that. I have done this. This is a poem I've written. I'm just 3 poems old, and somehow I see that during my best or worst, it's this is a form which I relate to. I don't know, because all those 3 poems have come. This is the first one I'm reciting. It's at the time of my son's birth. Then second happened in COVID, when I was in the COVID ward and thought I wouldn't come back home. And the last one is the recent one, when I'm undergoing my cancer treatment. So when somebody said that, I could relate, because during, my right hand is still not functional, but I hope I get that sooner than later. But so here is a poem, and it's inspired by Rudyard Kipling, and it's titled the same, If. This is written when I had just delivered my eldest son. So it says, if I have to endure pain, it would be to ensure your peace. If I have to lie, it would be to protect you from the bare truth that threatens to dent your soul. If I have to wallow in misery, it would be to achieve your milestone. If I have to cry in solitude, it would be to see you celebrate in the open. If I have to fail, it would be to cement your victory. If I have to anger the gods, it would be to please you, my child. If I have to lose my dignity, it would be to build yours. If I have to walk that extra mile, it would be to shorten your road to success. If I have to shame myself, it would be to shelter you from the clutches of mediocrity. If I have to feign ignorance, it would be to celebrate your wisdom. If I have to embrace death, it would be to enable you to lead a smoother and more meaningful life. To you, my beautiful baby, my soul and my very existence belongs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayushi. Your paper was, it's a really research paper based on gender studies. I have a question. When you said man and woman, human is also ends with the man. Mind it. So now I invite our chairperson, Kanchana Pethankaji, to sum up the session and give Sri Lankan views about the wars, anguish of wars.
Thank you, Vinkaji. And first of all, I'd like to thank our Madam Ajit ji for inviting me and having me here. So, I would like to wrap up what our panelists told in 2 sentences. We can't change history, but we shouldn't let history repeat. So thank you for gathering here today as we delve into the depths of a matter that weighs heavy on our hearts, the ongoing conflicts that mar our world. Today we find ourselves amidst another painful chapter as Israel and Hamas grapple once again, adding yet more layers to the complex narrative of the Israeli-Palestinian struggle. This conflict, rooted in competing national aspirations and territorial disputes, traces its painful history back to the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948. The status of Jerusalem, the plight of refugees, and lingering security concerns continue to fuel tensions periodically erupting into open hostilities that pit Israeli forces against Palestinian factions such as Hamas in Gaza and Fatah in the West Bank. But let's not view this in isolation. Reflecting on the recent Russo-Ukrainian war, we witnessed a colossal tragedy that not only took a devastating toll on the Ukrainian people, but reverberated across borders, leaving an indelible mark on the global conscience. As we discuss the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, let us remember the interconnectedness of our world and the profound consequences of these conflicts on the entire human family. In contemplating the toll of war, it is vital to acknowledge the adverse consequences both locally and globally. Lives are lost on both sides, families are torn apart, and the haunting spectre of humanitarian crisis looms large. But beyond these immediate impacts, the repercussions extended to the displacement of millions, creating refugee crises of unprecedented scale, reminiscent of the darkest chapter of history. The scars left by conflict aren't confined to geographical boundaries. They transcend nations and continents. The environmental toll, often described as ecocide, contributes to a global food crisis. The destruction and contamination caused by conflict don't just affect the warring parties, they echo across the planet, reminding us that the consequences of war ripple far beyond the battlefield. As we grapple with these complexities, a fundamental question emerges. Is war an inherent part of our shared human history? Must we continue to take lives based on differences in ethnicity, caste, religion, or political beliefs? War, instead of recognizing our shared humanity, often reduces us to adversaries solely due to diverging perspectives. In considering the intricacies of conflict, we must confront the notion that war identifies us not as human but as enemies. It challenges our shared aspirations for peace and understanding, leaving behind wounds that endure far beyond the immediate battles. So, here we stand at a crossroads, collectively pondering the trajectory of humanity. In a world grappling with adverse consequences of war, can we not strive for understanding, find common ground, and pursue resolutions through dialogue? Can't we do that? The tenacity of war may etch its mark on history, but it also leaves wounds on the collective soul of humanity. As we reflect on these issues, let this not be merely an intellectual exercise, but a call to action. A call to be the architects of a world where empathy triumphs over enmity, where understanding prevails over hostility. Let us together envision a future where conversations are more potent than conflicts and where the human spirit rises above the shadows of war. So thank you for your time, your consideration, and your commitment to fostering a world where peace is not just an aspiration, but a shared reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Kanchana Thankaji. You have beautifully chaired the session, and both the speakers were so brilliant. We had our lunch, so our stomach was full, but the mental hunger which for that, it was a very, fulfilled session. You have really
Both the speakers and the chairperson has spoke so well. Now it's the time for another session. So I thank you all the readers, speakers, and I hand over this session to Kavita, who is working since yesterday morning. So Kavita ji, please. It's over to you. From afternoon, I think we're getting on to the evening, and this is our last session of the day. The chairperson for this session is Professor Abdul Salim from Bangladesh. Professor Abdul Salim from Bangladesh, are you here? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the other speakers for this session are Professor K. Sri Ganeshan from Sri Lanka. Are you here? Dr. Bhishma Upriti from Nepal. Dr. Nirosha Salvathura from Sri Lanka. From Sri Lanka, are you here? Please. Please don't go away. This is the last session. You've been very patient.
Should I start?
Yeah, after we have silence. After we have people sitting down and maintaining silence. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen,
okay, let's start. Welcome to this session. The session is on fiction and papers. We have Professor K. Sri Ganeshan from Sri Lanka, Dr. Bhishma Upreti from Nepal, and Dr. Nirosha Salvathura. If I have mispronounced, please forgive me. I'm not very familiar with the names. Anyway, we'll go the way the names are printed here. Professor K. Sri Ganeshan from Sri Lanka.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, I would like to convey my regards and thanks to Madam Babuji. And again to my guru, Mr. S. Padmanathan from Sri Lanka, and to the chair, and to my colleagues and ladies and gentlemen. It's a great privilege for me to come over here to Delhi or to India for several times, more than 5 or 6 times in between these 10 years. And with all these invitations and our obligations and coming over and meeting you all, getting more experience, and we have been awarded. Thanks a lot for all these honor, madam, and all the Indian writers and critics, and all the writers from SAARC nations. And since the theme of this session or the conference is rather towards the wars, anguish over the senseless wars, so I would like to read a paper under the title, Narrating the Attachment to the War-Ravaged Houses, a study on Heaven with Hell, a play by Kulandai M. Shanmalingam of northern Sri Lanka in Sopas, is Padmanathan's translation. So I am Kandaya Sri Ganeshan from the University of Jaffna. As an introduction, I would like to talk to you about the roots of Sri Lankan Tamil theatre. Sri Lankan Tamil theatre has its roots in the folk tradition. Tamil traditional theatres are identified in a variety of Kuthu forms, namely Thenmodi Kuthu from Jaffna, Vadamodi Kuthu and Thenmodi Kuthu from Vatikalo, Kovalan Kuthu from Mullathievu, Vadapangu Kuthu and Thenpangu Kuthu from Manner and Chilo, and Kaman Kuthu from upcountry. But there are other genres like musical play, that is called Isanadagam, an offshoot of Parsi theatre, and borrowed the tradition like Victorian and realistic theatres of the European and English genres molded by the famous theatre man Kaliyarasu Swarnalingam. A major breakthrough was made by Professor Kanavadi Pillai, who introduced the naturalistic play of European tradition and the history records the services rendered by Professor S. Vidyanandan, former Vice Chancellor of University of Jaffna, who did an active research on the folklore of the Tamils of Ceylon and an action research on the folk theatre of the Tamils of Ceylon. It is treated as the rediscovery of Tamil national theatre from Natakuthu traditions of the northern and eastern provinces of Sri Lanka. Professor Vidyanandan's engagement with drama began in the early 50s when he started directing the naturalistic plays of Professor K. Kanavadi Pillai. In parallel, a kind of dialogue play in literary Tamil named historical plays or literary plays were also in vogue. Following the footsteps of Ediri Veera Sarachandra, who discovered the singular theatre form from Tamil Nadagama tradition prevailed in northern, eastern, western provinces and established an artistic theatre with his epoch-making production like Maname and Singaparku in the mid-50s. Professor Vidyanathan too studied the folk traditions of the Tamils and experimented with genres of Vadamodi and Thenmodi Vatikalo style to discover the roots of Tamil drama and theatre. He was successful with his revised productions staged for the modern audience living in the cities for 2 hours and proved that the folk traditions have their potential to make them Tamil theatre. The retrieved and revived productions of Kuthu plays like Karnanpur, Nondi Nadagam, Ravanesan and Valivadai staged in the early 60s, one after the other, are important experiments to his credit. The Tamil drama artists and directors of the Sri Lankan Tamil theatre exploited and introduced the dances and tunes of the folk tradition in the modern Tamil theatre to reflect the people's aspirations and problems and the struggle of the proletariat in the late 60s and 70s. There are directors, they make use of folk theatre elements to exploit their modern themes. Professor Maunaguru, then RCCS. And there are other theatre personalities like Shanmalingam, who continuously has made the use of Sri Lankan Tamil folk theatre elements in modern plays. So beyond doubt, the trendsetter of this movement was Professor Vidyanand. Maunaguru's Sangaram made use of Vadamodi Kuthu form to express the oppression of the downtrodden people of the proletariat. Kandan Karanai by Ile Pathanathan used Kathan Kuthu format to speak a modern theme like fascism. A Tarcisius introduced Henmodi dances and song patterns in his stylized plays to portray the conflict between the workers and the Modaladi, Samatya. The Tamil drama artists and the directors of Sri Lankan Tamil theatre exploited and introduced the dances and tunes of folk tradition in the modern Tamil theatre to reflect the people's aspirations and problem and the struggle of the proletariat in the late 60s and 70s. So, as I was telling you about Professor Vidyanand productions, they were very successful, and following that, our theatre artists made use of the folk elements in their theatres, and and our present playwright, I was talking about Prandema Shanmalingam, who has come through this tradition. Having sailed through the different phases of Tamil theatre, Prandema Shanmalingam has been able to evolve his own theatre based on Tamil traditional theatres like Kuthu, Senadagam, and the Victorian and naturalistic theatres of European and English genres modeled by Swarnalingam. Beginning with imitating other characters and improvised short comedy plays in collaboration with Grama Sevaka Silvaratnam, staged at his village community centre, he continued his dramatic career with his blessings of renowned theatre personality like Swarnalingam. In the 60s, Shanmalingam tried his hands on literary and historical plays and wrote many plays on that mode. He achieved a remarkable recognition in the world of Tamil theatre and experimented new theatre forms at schools in the early 80s after his interaction with Sinhala and Tamil theatre scholars during his postgraduate diploma courses at the University of Colombo in the late 70s. The shorter plays titled Madhurubagan, Ruvai Maramagi, Thiyaga Thirumanam, and etc. accommodated under school plays led him to write major plays like Mansumandu Veniyar, Yakkeduthiruppen, Palli Eluthu etc. in the mid-80s. He was able to evolve a theatre movement in Jaffna with his School of Drama and Theatre along with his contemporaries, namely Tarcisius, Mount Arasu, Jenna Francis. So there are other theatre personalities. Shanmalingam's new pattern of writing plays based on realistic and folk mode has identified him as a new playwright of Sri Lankan Tamil theatre, which has adopted a stylized mode. Themes such as equal rights for women, the degenerating influence of tuition centres on the education of the Jaffna students community, power struggle of oppressed communities, and the struggle of Tamils are some of the themes spoken in his plays. They also reflect the people's day-to-day suffering like embargo on fuel, curtailment of electricity, and ban on newsprint, which led the Tamil communities to struggle for further normalcy. The playwright Shanmalingam concentrated more on the effects of war in the 1990s in his later plays, namely Anna Itadi, The Pyre, led by a mother, which speaks on the psychological effects of war. There is another play, Endain Thayum, on the suffering of parents in the homeland left in the lurch by the sons and daughters who left the country for European and North American and other African countries. The present play, titled Heaven with Hell, written in the mid-90s, is one of such plays which tries to portray the attachment towards the homes in which people lived for a long time and left them due to displacement. I was talking to you about the displacement yesterday also through my poems. Further, it criticizes the attitude of the people who simply left the houses for greener pastures without having any concern for the existence of them and the life they enjoyed with kith and kin and forefathers under the same roof. Losing the houses which are heaven for the people who live in them and missing the comforts of homes may become hell if the people disregard of their homes carelessly are the matters of concern for the playwright. People were forced to leave homes during the war. The attachment towards the house is well interpreted as the attachment towards the soil. The agony of being away from the home and the attitude of the people selling their homes and leaving them for greener pastures elsewhere in the world is criticized by the playwright with a strong passion. I think you would have simply compared the situation in Gaza and Ukraine, where the people, the native people, were forced to leave their places. So there are one or two quotations from the play, some deeper thoughts that are reflected in the dialogues of the characters. One character says, quotation, "One should always be grateful to the temple you inhabited. First your mother's womb, next the house in which you live. It is you who make it a heaven or hell. After displacement, the attachment to your house has doubled." You know the character, the mind can make a heaven or hell. Maybe you are right when you say your minds are deserted, but home is never deserted. Is another character addressing the other man. Clarker, we may fail to protect anything, but we cannot fail to protect our minds. If your mind goes astray, the home goes, your village goes, your people go. So, in another context, leaving home was like going to the crematorium. A village has life. A house is a mirror that reflects the minds of its inhabitants. Our home has life. It lives with us. It is supported by another character, home has life. So that was the theme that was discussed in the play. This has more relevance to the wars going on in the world elsewhere. The war that we faced, we suffered. That's a record. Actually, Pranthama Shanmulinga is a very important man, wrote more than 100-odd plays, translated 40-odd plays from Sophocles to Shakespeare to the modern playwrights from other countries, even SAARC countries. And my guru, Mr. Padmanabhan, was the one who translated 5 of his plays.
Padmanabhan is a great man.
Yeah.
He is not only your guru, he is a guru of the whole generation.
Thank you, madam.
Of the intellectual children.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So with that, I am just winding up my session. This is how I could salute to the nations which are suffering because of war. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Sri Ganeshan. Next, I would request Dr. Bhishma Upreti from Nepal to present his paper.
Thank you so much. So, as I am I write essays and travel as well, along with poetry. So this time I'm here with my prose. The major topic of the festival is related to war this time. So, and I am feeling that the hatred and hate speech has been increasing everywhere in recent years. So this essay is on that subject. The title of it is a notion of hate speech. The speech, a notion that propagates hate and defies social harmony, is called hate speech. In other words, the aggressive discourse against a person on the basis of religion, gender, caste, economic status is known as hate speech. Today, growing intolerance and detestation is visible in every part of the society. Political parties and leaders make hefty promises and goad people to protest throughout the world. Certainly, their attitude and character are nowhere close to their ideology and commitments. In some situations, it was taken as frustrations induced amongst the citizens when their behavior began to contradict their values and principles. However, as the impact of this was steadily flaring in the overall sectors, there was change felt in the level of dissatisfaction, disappointment, chaos, and hate as well. There are many instances that can be seen and reached, such as vulgarities in our languages, growing instances that can be vulgarity in languages, growing disrespectfulness towards others, and development in one's nature of not paying heed to others, taking law into our own hands, powerful people taking decisions themselves, and others taking law into their hands, powerful people taking decisions themselves and abusing power to execute these decisions due to this encroachment on rule of law, democracy and citizens' rights that were obtained by carrying out violent protest and sacrifice being witnessed, the wrong activities and work of institutions established to protect and systematize citizens' rights have also contributed to this kind of anarchy and hate. We should not shy away from acknowledging this, owing to this. It is felt that the rule of law and citizens' rights are being jeopardized. This also is certainly not a good indication. This situation can be seen in all continents, nations, cultures, and traditions. I would like to share a couple of experiences as example. In the last week of September 2019, I took part in PEN International's Writers Committee for Peace meeting in Manila. The main topic of the deliberation was hate speech and its impact on society. Writers from various countries presented a worksheet regarding the situation in their respective countries. Burhan Somez, he is the president of PEN International at the moment, from Turkey, stated, Turkey is a country with a Muslim majority. The country is secular, but extremists are surging and there is injustice towards peoples belonging to other religions. They are suffering. Another example is the hatred towards immigrants. There are notices stuck on the beach which say Syrians are not allowed to swim in the sea. There have been protests against women wearing skirts. Issues have been created. Human rights and wishes of individuals have been encroached upon. Another example, I do not wish to disclose her name. She was from Russia. She opens from 2000, all kinds of human rights were seized. Free speech and expression of press were taken away. Everything was controlled by the Kremlin. Since 2015, the situation has become even more difficult. Citizens cannot come out with on the street holding freedom of right placards. People freely voicing their opinions are arrested and nobody knows where they go. According to her, Kremlin says we do not have writers and politicians in the country. So how ridiculous of this country will be peaceful? Citizens are silent. After saying this, she raises the questions. A country with silent citizens is prepared for explosion. Then how can a silent country be peaceful? I was amused listening to her. Russia is a country with world-famous writers like Alexander Pushkin, Mikhail Lermontov, Mikhail Solokhov, Maxim Gorky, Mikhail Gamzatov, Anton Chekhov, and Fyodor Dostoevsky, and so on. Even today, I personally know some very powerful Russian poets, but the powerful president of the country apparently says that there are no writers in his country. So I did not present worksheet over there. I certainly listened to issues they raised and the issues created by hate. At the moment, I was recalling the vast story by our Prime Minister, tweets of Prime Minister's Chief Advisor, Information Minister's absurd, hateful speech, and opposition parties' chief leaders and other leaders' distressful and thorny speeches. The scenes of police repression and series of extrajudicial killings by government security personnel of those expressing dissatisfaction and seeking peace, security, and development through placards and many atrocities, including Nirmala Panta. Nirmala Panta was a 17-year-old girl. She was brutally killed, raped and killed, and the murderer is still not found. So I shared my experience about the state of hatred and that is mushrooming in the country, and the degeneration and intolerance it has established in society. In a democratic system, democracy and freedom of speech are synonymous. These two things are clubbed together. Issues start rising if these two things are disjoined. The major reasons responsible for the issues and surging detest and anarchy in our country and across the globe is the discrepancies of rule of law and flouted freedom of speech and expression. Where there is a democratic culture, mutual respect, heeding others, and learning from them will develop a practice. Anything useful or bad things to become custom, practice and culture after a long practice. Tradition and culture then provide identity of individuals. In particular, history has shown that hatred resides in countries that have been under dictatorship for a prolonged period. Countries that have lagged behind in the competition for development, countries and societies that are striving for leap in the path of change, and egotistical society that worship power and money. Hatred and envy reside in a society where there persists high illiteracy and the light of higher level of consciousness that is beyond the education has not reached everyone's yard. In such a society, people are divided and citizens are merely activists of political parties, and they also practice intolerance. Therefore, looking at the mirror of history, we are going to wipe our face or not. Are we going to get rid of all that is not good to come together to mold a hopeful future or not? Do we set fire on our hard-earned civilization over centuries or further enlighten it? after listening to the participants in the program, these questions germinated in my mind. Nonetheless, no one will provide answers to these questions. We have to discover them ourselves. I'm almost done now. I thought it is good, nothing to say. It is a good thing to say, I will follow a democratic process. It is also a good thing to join parties and come to power through democratic process. But to show a democratic attitude, disregarding politics and attitude of hate and work towards building a civilized society is actually great and praiseworthy work. The experience of increasing intolerance, hatred, self-observations is similar in every continent, region, and sections. I think when uncommon things begin to be common, fate tends to flare up in society. It becomes risky for individuals to dream and write about it. Our society is gradually muzzling itself. The frustrating perception like, why speak, as if anyone would listen, is the apparent rampant public opinion, wisdom, knowledge, prudence, and vice of the soul have bowed down. Crime, corruption, insecurity have showed visibly and can be felt as well. The fear that is all these things rising steadily can be dangerous. It has become absolutely necessary for political leadership, administrative leaderships, academic sectors, civil society, and citizens themselves to adequately ponder upon the hate speech and discourage and discard it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Now I would request Dr. Nirosha Sambathura for her paper. Please.
Thank you, Professor. I am Nirosha Sambathura from the Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka. First of all, I would like to thank Madam Ajit Kore because मैं आपके चरण चूमना चाहती हूँ क्योंकि आपने मुझे ऐसा मौका दिया है. I am going to present my topic in Hindi. My mother tongue is Sinhalese, but my language is Hindi. I love Hindi language. मैं बहुत प्यार करती हूँ हिंदी भाषा से. My topic is an analytical study of Buddhist teachings quoted in कबीर साखी's poetry, यानी कबीर दास की साखियों में बौद्ध धर्म शिक्षा का प्रतिबिंब एक आलोचनात्मक अध्ययन है. और मेरा उद्देश्य है द्वितीय भाषा के रूप में जो हिंदी पढ़ते हैं, भाषा अध्ययन में रहते हैं विद्यार्थियों को साहित्य तथा बौद्ध धर्म साहित्य में अंतर्गत समानता का बोध दिलाना मेरा उद्देश्य है. और आप देख सकते हैं, अच्छा ठीक है. मेरा शोध क्रम है हिंदी साहित्य, कबीर दर्शन आदि ग्रंथ तथा बौद्ध धर्म ग्रंथों की परिशीलन से यह शोध कार्य करना. और श्रीलंका में बहुत किताबें हैं ही नहीं, विश्वविद्यालयों में कुछ किताबें हैं, तो हमें जो थोड़ा बहुत ही कम मिलते हैं किताबें, उसी से मैंने इस शोध कार्य पूरा किया है. मैं कहती हूँ यहाँ तीन भी हैं, संत और सूफी. मैं भक्ति काल को ही ले लिया है. आप जानते हैं हिंदी साहित्य में 4 काल थे, आदिकाल, भक्ति काल, रीति काल, आधुनिक काल. और भक्ति आदि काल में मुसलमानों के आक्रमण से बहुत कुछ हुआ है. उसके बाद भक्ति काल आता है, उसमें साहित्य बहुत बड़ा है, कहते हैं स्वर्ण युग है. तो कबीर दास उसी काल में कबीर दास का आविर्भाव हुआ है. और संत कबीर का जन्म 1456 में हुआ और 75 कहते हैं उनकी जाति जुलाहा है। उनकी निर्गुण धारा के भक्ति हैं वो। भक्ति पीरियड में 2 धाराएं थी, सगुण और निर्गुण। निर्गुण वाले कहते हैं अपने ज्ञान को बढ़ा के ही भगवान का साक्षात्कार कर सकते हैं। उसी का मुख्य प्रतिनिधि कवि हैं कबीर दास। और भगवान बुद्ध ईसे पूर्व 563 में उसका काल है। मुझे ये कहना चाहिए कि भगवान बुद्ध ही पहले आए हैं, उसके बाद कबीर आए हैं। तो भगवान बुद्ध का धर्म दर्शन का प्रभाव कबीर पर पड़ा है, उसके साहित्य पर पड़ा है। उसका एक उदाहरण, दोनों एक ही कहते हैं, यानी एकता, शांति। कबीर ने कहा, पानी केरा बुदबुदा उस मानुस की जात, देखत ही छिप जाएगा जो तारा पर भात। यानी हमारे जीवन बहुत ही छोटा है, 1-2-3 दिन में नष्ट हो जाता है, हमारी मृत्यु ऐसा हो सकती है। तो संसार जिसके प्रति मनुष्य में इतनी आसक्ति है, कितना परिवर्तनशील और अस्थिर है, वही कहता है दोनों में। और दूसरा है, भगवान बुद्ध ने भी ऐसा कहता है, अनिच्छावत संखारा उपादवय धम्मिनो उपजित्वा निरुच्यन्ति तेषां उपशमनो सुखो। वो इन पाली, दिस इज इन पाली, भगवान बुद्ध इस टेलिंग लाइक दिस कहते हैं। और भगवान बुद्ध यह मानते थे कि सब कुछ कर्म से होता है, यानी हमने जो पहले जन्म में किया है उसी कर्मानुसार ही हमारा सब कुछ इस जन्म में जो कुछ होता है तो कर्म के अनुसार ही होता है। यहाँ कुल का बड़ा प्रभाव है। ये 4 कुल ब्राह्मण लोगों ने कहा है, लेकिन वे लोग भगवान बुद्ध भी नहीं मानते और कबीर भी नहीं मानते। कबीर कहते हैं, जो तू बामन बामणी चाया ते आन बाढ़ हवे क्यों नहीं आया, जो तू तुरक नी चाया ते भीतर कितना क्यों न कराया। भगवान बुद्ध भी यही मानते हैं। भगवान बुद्ध कहते हैं, न जज्जा वसलो होती, इन पाली न जज्जा होती ब्राह्मणों, खम्मना वसलो होती, खम्मना होती ब्राह्मणों। दोनों एक ही कहते हैं, कोई कुल से नहीं होता, कोई उत्पत्ति से कुल लेके नहीं आता। कर्म के, अपनी क्रियाओं के अनुसार जो ब्राह्मण शूद्र होता है, यानी एकता भगवान बुद्ध और कबीर कहते हैं। ऐसे कबीर बहुत कह चुके हैं, एक बूंद एके मलमूत्र, एके चाम एके शूद्र, एक ज्योति थे सब उत्पन्न, कौन बहुमन कौन सुधा, कौन ब्राह्मण कौन शुद्ध, ये कौन कह सकते हैं। अपनी क्रियाओं से ही कहते हैं, सब मनुष्य एक ही है, एकता है सभी में। और बहुत सारे हैं ऐसे, जो तो को कांटा बुए ताकि वो तो फूल, तो को फूल के फूल है, वाको है त्रिशूल। वो यानी कहते हैं, किसी ने अपने साथ बुराई की और आप उसके साथ भलाई करें, वो भलाई अपने लिए भलाई होता है, लेकिन दूसरों के लिए त्रिशूल सा लगता है, यानी वैर न करना। भगवान बुद्ध कहते हैं, धम्म पद साहित्य में, भगवान बुद्ध के धम्म पद उसमें आता है, नहीं वेरेन वेरानी सम्मति च खुदाचनम अवेरेन च सम्मति ऐसा धम्मो सनातना। यानी वैर से कुछ नहीं होता, किसी से वैर न करना चाहिए, सभी के साथ अच्छा व्यवहार करना चाहिए। और ऐसे कबीर कहते हैं, ये समाज सुधारने के लिए उन्होंने बहुत कुछ किया है। उनकी दोहों में साखी, यानी उनके दोहे साक्षी ही कहते हैं। वो साक्षी का मतलब अपना अनुभव प्रकट करना। तो वहाँ कबीर कहते हैं, ऐसे वाणी बोलिए मन का आपा खोए, और को शीतल करे आप शीतल होए। यानी जो आप शब्द बोलते हैं, जो कुछ कहते हैं, दूसरों को न हानि पहुंचना चाहिए, अपने आप भी शांत होना चाहिए इससे, और दूसरों से भी शांत होना है। और एक है साधु इतना दीजिए जामै कुटुंब समाहूं। Okay. That's why I told आपने मुझे मौका दिया है।
Indians are very happy
जी।
that you are speaking in Hindi.
Because we don't have any yes.
Nepali, Bangladeshi, they cannot understand.
Okay.
We understand Hindi, though we know that we belong to the same language family.
Yes.
But we have walked away from it.
Okay, you can see here my conclusion. This is, then you can understand, I think.
No, but why don't you read out English?
Because it's so difficult to tell in English. I don't know how to say kabis
Since you have
and.
gone halfway through as a thing, you can't stop, so please.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Salvatore. I'm sorry, I should have mentioned this before, but it took some time for me to understand that she is speaking in Hindi. Anyway, thank you. Can you give us sort of a... Do you need some more time? Okay. Okay, this is my turn now, and I will go to the podium. Thanks, first of all, to Foswal Literature Festival, because this is my first attendance in this festival. So I find it very interesting and also quite rewarding. I have a confession at the very beginning. Actually, this is a session on fiction and papers. And we have listened to 3 different kinds of papers. One is on play, that you have analyzed, the other one is on war, and the third one is on Buddhist bhakti teaching, if I'm not wrong. Now, what I have observed, this festival has 2 simultaneous themes. One is bhakti and Sufism, the other is war. As for bhakti and Sufism, I have very little knowledge. Though I have some knowledge of bhakti in the sense that I belong to a place in Bangladesh where 3 bhakti composers and singers were born, very famous. One is Kangal Horinath, the other is Sri Chaitanya Dev, and the third one is Fakir Lalan Shah. My friend over there, Ovi, once mentioned yesterday about Lalan Shah and Baul song. Baul song is really bhakti song. But I know nothing about Sufism, so I'm not going to talk about that. What I know a little bit about is war. Because the war that was fought in Bangladesh in 1971, I was a young man of 26. So I had to be involved in the war. Though not as a fighter, direct fighter. I participated in the war as a sort of ancillary help, because my younger brother was a freedom fighter, My cousins were all freedom fighters, and I had to work with them, help them. So I know about war atrocities, tortures, and the problems. And I have seen these things in my own eyes. But this is not the forum where I should speak about my experience. What I'm trying to say is this, that fiction, and we all know this adage, that fact is stranger than fiction. But one thing is very important about fact and fiction. Actually, facts give birth to fictions. There is no doubt about it. Because, you know, we write poetry or the play that has been mentioned here, or short story, or novel. We write them from the experience that we go through. So these are facts of life. And war is a fact. Most of us don't want war. And I have not seen anywhere in the world a writer supporting war. Normally I translate a lot. And that's why I said I'm a misfit in this session, because I'm not a creative writer. I don't write fiction, I don't write poetry, I don't even write plays, but I translate. In one word, I can say, I live on the creative writers. That is what my wife tells me always, teasing me that, you know, you always try to imitate others' writing and translate them and try to show that you are a creative writer. I'm not a creative writer. But if there is anything like recreation, I try to do that.
You are a creative writer.
And I have so far translated almost 36 plays into Bangla. I also translate from Bangla to English. And I have brought this book. This is War Experience. Memoirs of War Victims, 1971. This is translated by me, but written by Surma Zahid, a lady. She wrote it in Bangla, and she traveled almost all over Bangladesh to find out women violated by Pakistan Army, and also their friends like Razakars. I hope you know what Razakar means. And I want to read two pieces from here, which is really stranger than fiction, but facts. For time constraint, I'm going to be very brief. I'm going to skip some of the text. This lady, her name is Shumi Rashugi, of Thakurgaon. It's a small place in Bangladesh. And the name indicates that she is not a Muslim. But please remember, war doesn't spare anybody. We have not been spared like being Muslim, no. War affects everybody. Now Shumi Rashugi was raped, and she was taken to the army camp. She was raped repeatedly. But then again, she reminisces a very interesting thing. She says, we took shelter in a refugee camp in India. As you know, life in refugee camps is not human. We suffered a lot, but we were safe. I remember a girl, and this is what I used in one of my adapted plays, this particular incident. I remember a girl who was brought to the camp after she was raped by the army. She was in a very bad state and had no strength and energy to be on her own. Nobody nursed her or brought her any food even, though her parents and sisters were with her there. They just wanted to get rid of her, as she was violated by the army. They just wanted, out of pity, I fetched food for her and fed her, which her parents, especially her father, didn't like at all. As I fed the girl, she looked at me in silence and gratitude. Her mother later told me she had to be cruel to her daughter because of her father. He blamed his daughter for what had happened to her. The mother, on her part, couldn't be disobedient to her husband and take care of her daughter. I promised I would look after her from then on, but when I went back next time, she was no more. She was barely 14 or 15 and looked so cute and bright. She was born on a moonlit night, and that made her parents call her Purni, from Purnima. Born on a moonlight night, Purni, meaning moonlight. I heard all this from her mother, who was tremendously heartbroken after her daughter's death. We perhaps came back to Bangladesh 2 months after it was liberated. We were left with nothing. Added to that, people spoke bad of us and mistreated us beyond tolerance. In spite of everything, we are still surviving. Life is not a bed of roses, I know, but mine has some additional miseries which I'm not supposed to suffer from. This is the first one, and the second one is this woman is named Chendu Marma. It's a tribal, Chendu Marma is a tribal girl. And I have already told you that, though these two, the first one, that is also a tribal girl, and this is also a tribal. But as I said, war doesn't spare anybody. These are just two examples. She was raped, and then she says, the country got liberated one day. I saw people running around in ecstasy. The major, and I got, one of the Pakistani majors actually took her as a capt, and then when, they were defeated, the major surrendered and she was left alone. At that time, a police officer rescued me and took me to his house. I stayed with him for a few months and then decided to go back to my husband's home. Her husband was dead because he was also killed. But my in-laws were not happy seeing me back. They said I was a disgrace to their family, and moreover, I had no child by their son. So they didn't have any kinship with me. My parents were dead long before, yet I went back to my village for help. But the villagers or the community declined to give me any shelter. All doors of help were rudely shut down on my very face. Then I had to take my own decision. I took myself away from the so-called civilized society and went deep inside a jungle called Balipara. I built my own living place with the tree trunks, leaves, stems, and shrubs. But that wasn't enough. I had to look for food. So I worked as day labor or did whatever paid me wages to live on. After so many years of independence, our society hasn't accepted me. I still live in a recluse deep inside the forest. To tell you the truth, I never want the kind of society that doesn't give shelter to a destitute woman. This, I don't think, is the real freedom for which we sacrifice so much. I'm now more than 60. Still I remain a reject by the community. So these are the facts, but definitely they sound like fiction. And this is what war can do to us. Thank you.
Abdus, you said you are not a creative writer.
We are leaving your book for our library.
This one?
You are a creative writer because one translation is a creative writing. It's a process.
This was our last session for today, but just for 5 minutes, if you could be patient and listen to Gayatri Mozamuta, she'll just take 5 minutes.
Okay, we are patient.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you, Ajit Kaurji, Arpana ji, Kavita, and Professor Salam. I just have a short reading which brings a different perspective, and that is, of course, a very tough act to follow and everything that was read. I wrote a book called The Lotus of the Heart during COVID, and I'm taking a little short excerpt from it called Looking for Circa 2020. And it was written during COVID time, but it's turning out to be a little prophetic as Greta Thunberg's quote I began it with. I want you to act as if the house is on fire because it is, says Greta Thunberg in 2019. So I write, imagine a world without COVID. Where would we be today, bang in the heart of 2020? That was during the time COVID was going on. The conflicts around the world in West Gaza, which turned out to be prophetic, in Delhi, in Sudan, in South China Sea, would continue. And 1% of the global rich would continue to amass all the wealth. Young girls would continue to walk miles in some unnamed Indian village to go to toilets. Skirmishes over climate change would show no signs of abating, while other species and environments are ravaged by us. Ethnic cleansing and oppression of the constructed others, outsiders, would continue to be deemed normal. Imagine a world in 2020 when humans are not locked up for all the crimes they've perpetrated against humanity. What if the virus never manifested during our lifetime? Would China become so belligerent, sensing threat to its economy and dominance, fast-tracking their Belt and Road Initiative? Would the rest of the world not continue to buy Chinese goods of all manner? Do we even care about the ideologies China upholds during normal times? Are we concerned about the gagging and censorship, or are we content buying cheap toys? Who is being the hypocrite here? Suddenly now we are up in arms. How else has our eyes opened sitting at home? What have we begun to appreciate? Would we still be traversing continents to cover rivers and lakes just to be able to breathe well, soak in beauty, and be close to nature, hear birds and cricket calls? For it is impossible to do so wherever we are. Why then has it now dawned upon us that all that is magnificent and clean can be found right here at our backyard? The air now is rent with bird, squirrel calls, and rustling of leaves. The sky so blue, the traffic noiseless, and families huddled closer together. Why do we have to spend so much time and money traveling always in readiness to leave when the peace is right here? We have begun to appreciate how much more healthier it is to grow and cook our own food, maintain a garden, spend less money purchasing stuff that's of little or no use, of sharing what we have, for we are always abundant. There are myriad ways in which each one of us has begun to appreciate what we already have without having to depend on the external. Even peace and quietude are valued as something that's inside his home. Where would we be today if there was no COVID-19? How has the virus replaced old wars with new ones? Old concerns with a fresh approach to what is sustainable and genuine. In a way, in spite of its utter ruination, it is teaching us about ourselves, about the changes we are forced to make, about the shifting paradigms of love and power, belonging and solitude. Imagine a world without COVID-19. Where would you be today? Where would you pay the most attention? What would you dream about and aspire for? Who would you call or not call? Thank you so much for giving me that opportunity.
I think a very enlightening session and a befitting end to the day. Thank you everyone for being such patient listeners, and we definitely go home with food for thought. But before that, we can just refresh ourselves with some tea, which is awaiting us. Thank you so much.
Recording stopped.